Today, along with One Ohio, the One Ohio Recovery Foundation Board, I'm announcing that Alicia Nelson will be the first executive director. Let me start with One Ohio and maybe go back a little bit in time, a little background. In 2017, after seeing the tremendous damage that the opioid epidemic was doing to Ohioans and their families, and also after seeing what I consider to be strong evidence that the drug companies were significantly responsible for this, I made a decision as Attorney General to file a lawsuit against these drug companies. We later filed a lawsuit against the distributors. When Ohio filed its lawsuit, when I filed the lawsuit, we were only the second state to do so. We were the first big state to do so. Mississippi had filed. We were the first big state to do so. We were the second state. After that, we began to see fairly quickly other states that were filing against the same drug companies. And then here in Ohio, we began to see local political subdivisions file suits. We saw cities, we saw counties, we saw townships, and we saw villages do that. Fast forward then to when I became governor in 2019. In October of 2019, I pulled together a meeting of the different political subdivisions that had filed suit. In fact, we had several different discussions, numerous discussions about this, and we had specifically one meeting where we filled up the biggest room in the governor's residence with people to really kind of talk about a possibility of the creation of a foundation. I felt it was important to put this foundation together. Ultimately, there was an agreement, and One Ohio was, in fact, formed. I think it's important to go back and talk about some of the reasons why One Ohio, or why I felt, again, speak for myself, why I felt that it was important to pull these political subdivisions together along with the state of Ohio. One, it gave us more power. Being together, we were more powerful than we would be if we were separate. We had dozens and dozens of political subdivisions that were involved. We thought at that point settlement discussions were going on, and if we could, as Ohio, present a unified front, we thought we would have a much better chance in regard to those negotiations for settlement. Second, some of the villages and townships were set to receive a very small amount of money, and pooling that money, it seemed to make a lot of sense. Three, as we pooled the money, it would also enable us to tackle bigger problems and do things that might impact everybody in the state of Ohio. The fourth reason is, frankly, I think we learned something in regard to the tobacco settlement. While that money was spent for good purposes, it was really not spent to deal with the tobacco, the smoking problem, and the great cost that has to the state of Ohio and the damage it does to so many of our citizens and the families. I did not want to make that mistake again. Again, pooling the money with a very specific purpose that this money needed to be spent in regard to the drug problem, I thought was very important. Also, that enabled us to spread this out. At that point, we did not know, the settlements had not been reached, and we did not know how long it was going to take to pay this money out. We thought there was a possibility that some of that money would at least all be paid at once. It's turned out the settlements provide for a lengthy period of time. But again, we wanted an entity, we wanted to be able to be spending money significant money in the future. The agreement that we put together provided for experts to advise the group that the foundation. We felt that was important as well. And finally, one of the things that I committed to as governor is that the money from these settlements would not replace or supplement what the state of Ohio was doing. My belief was then and is today that we have an obligation as a state to focus on this problem. What One Ohio will do is great, but we should not pull back in our efforts just because of One Ohio and existence of One Ohio. The One Ohio plan called for the creation of a private non-government foundation to control 55% of the settlement funds and to focus on using them for the purpose of fighting the drug epidemic and saving lives now and also well into the future. There are 30% of the funds go to local government, the remaining 15 goes to the state. In 2021, the first of Ohio's landmark settlements was reached with key players in the pharmaceutical industry. As of today, 8 settlements have been made totaling $1.8 billion have been reached in full or in principle, and these will be paid out over the next decade and a half. That's kind of the big summary of where we are today. Again, to remind everyone, the foundation is governed by a board of 29 people. 19 are appointed by the local communities around the state of Ohio. 5 are appointed by the governor. 4 are selected by legislative leaders, and 1 is selected by the Attorney General. These are dedicated volunteers, many of whom have personally been impacted by the scourge of addiction. They have committed countless hours towards getting the foundation off the ground. We are very lucky in Ohio to have such an incredibly committed group to lead the work of carrying out the foundation's mission so that we can, in fact, save lives and help families. As governor, I am charged, based upon the agreement, with appointing the foundation's executive director. Over the past several months, the foundation's board of directors conducted an extensive national search. In July, the board submitted to me 3 very qualified candidates, all 3 of them very, very good candidates. After careful consideration, I have selected Alicia Nelson for this role. For more than 16 years, Alicia has turned her passion and life experiences into a career promoting and developing policies that support long-term recovery and the advancement of the behavioral health field. As Attorney General, I appointed Alicia Nelson to head my anti-drug efforts in the Attorney General's office. When I became governor, I created Recovery Ohio and made her the director. She also has experience in behavioral health at the local government level through service at the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board of Franklin County. Additionally, she supported behavioral health payment innovations in the Medicaid system while working in the private sector. While the foundation is a private organization and not a government entity, I know that Alicia Nelson and the 29-member board understand that the organization supports a much broader public mission, and that, of course, is to save lives. I'm confident that One Ohio will continue to operate in a transparent way as a transparent nonprofit. One Ohio is an important job, and I believe that Alicia is going to be an amazing asset as its executive director, and we're very fortunate to have her.